Hey, welcome back everybody. This is Low Life Plays, another deck tech for you. Before I jump into it too far, I always like to remind everybody, if you're enjoying the content, you're enjoying the magic stuff, just remember to leave a like on the video, comment down below any Merfolk or fun synergies, you think would also be fun for me to try out, and subscribe if, you like hearing me talk about magic. Outside of that, let's just jump right into this guy. So Hakbal of the Surging Soul. Pretty crazy commander, right? What prompted me to film this now is because the new set with Modern Horizons, I got the new Merfolk, which is just super strong, which they're in here, and we'll talk about it. But essentially, it's 2 mana and a blue and a green for a 3/3. At the beginning of each combat on your turn, or at the beginning of combat on your turn, each Merfolk creature you control explores. So exploring, reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, you can keep it on top and put a +1/+1 counter on the exploring creature, or you can put it into the graveyard. So lots of flexibility, lots of control, lots of land control. It's very hard to miss your land drops in this deck. It's that's one of my favorite things about running this Simic thing. But either way, and then whenever Hakbal of the Surging Soul attacks, you put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you don't, draw a card. So he's so strong. So strong. We got our tokens over here. We got our hexproof Merfolk, and then we got our regular Merfolk boy. So getting into our ramp plan, we're running Arcane Signet, Classic. We're also running Kami of the Whispering Hopes. So I know it's not a Merfolk, but with all the +1/+1 counters that you can add and synergies, so if one or more +1/+1 counters are put on a permanent you control, that many +1 are put on that permanent instead. So when other Merfolk are exploring, it's really nice. And then it's also just a dork that gets more mana the more counters that are on it. Soul Ring, Classic. Simic Signet, good stuff. Planar Genesis, this is from Modern Horizons 3. It's just an instant speed, and look at the top 4 cards of your library, put a land into play tapped, and if you don't, you can still put a card from among them in your hand, rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Really good. Etherize. So this one is return all attacking creatures to their owner's hands. This is our removal plan. Just bounce a bunch of creatures. Resculpt. Exile target artifact or creature. So an exiling effect for artifacts in blue. Super useful for us. Beast Within. Classic. Destroy target permanent. If they got a land that's a problem, get it out of here. Rapid Hybridization. Just really fast removal for a creature. Same thing with Pongify. I love those 2 cards. Wave Goodbye. Return each creature without a +1/+1 counter to its owner's hand. Odds are, our creatures are all going to have +1/+1 counters, so we're going to be more benefited by a Wave Goodbye than anybody else would be. Raven Form. Just exiling artifacts and creatures in blue, so it gives us some artifact removal, which is super nice. Then we're going to get into card draw. So, Biden of Thassa. Pretty standard draw, but it's also just so thematic, I think. Either way, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. And you can also pay 2 and tap this to have creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. So really it's in here for the card draw. Tatiova, very powerful Merfolk here. Landfall, whenever a land ETBs, gain a life, draw a card, which synergizes very well with how much land we can produce and put out with Hakbal. So really strong. Cold-Eyed Selkie. This is just a really good card. I mean, it has Island Walk itself, and then whenever it deals combat damage, you draw that many cards. So really cool, and it can get in pretty easy. And we have some facilitators to help with that we'll get into later. Merfolk Looter. I just threw this in because it's a Merfolk, and I like to just, draw a card, discard a card. It's just nice to have, and it can get big, so it seems good to me. Instant Speed, Inspiring Call. For 3 mana, you draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, and then those creatures get indestructible. So, super nice, just save your board, draw a bunch of cards, set you up for a really nice position. Kindred Discovery, I mean, what more could you ask for? When it ETBs, you name Soldier, Merfolk, or, whatever you want. You could name Eldrazi for all I care, but I'm going to name Merfolk. Whenever a creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. Just gotta be careful with that because your board can get kind of big, and it's not a may draw a card, it's you draw a card, so just keep that in mind. Sealing the Sea and Sky. This one's pretty nuts just because whenever it attacks, you draw a card, but it has indestructible as long as you control 2 other Merfolk, and then other Merfolk get ward. So it's indestructible, and then if you have those 2 other ones, it's protecting them with ward. It's just such a strong Lord effect for 3. Really cool. Seafloor Oracle. For 4 mana, you can have this guy come down, and whenever a Merfolk you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw cards. So it's kind of like another Biden of Thassa effect. Really, really nice. Zagana, Utopian Speaker. This one is when at ETBs, if you control another creature with +1/+1 counter on it, you draw. You can adapt her for 4, and then each creature with a +1/+1 counter on it also has trample. That's what I'm in here for. Is it's nice. It's just icing on the cake. Those first 2 abilities where it just gets stronger, it draws a card, but just giving all my other creatures trample is really nice. And then we're going to get into some more lords here. So, Marrow Regery is really, really strong. I mean, it has uses in a bunch of other decks too, but it gives all +1/+1, and then whenever you cast a Merfolk, you may tap or untap target permanent. So you can tap down opposing blockers, you can untap maybe a dork that you need, or untap some other synergistic piece that we're running. Really, really good. Lord of Atlantis. I mean, classic Lord. It's the Lord of Atlantis, man. You got to run it in here. All Merfolk get +1/+1 and gain Island Walk. So, really fun. Merfolk Mistbinder. Same thing. Just give your Merfolk more strength. Just +1/+1. Mist Dancer, one of the more powerful lords. It does cost 5 to get this out, but it gives them +1/+0 and flying. And it has Encore. So, really nice stuff. So you can get it back for like a really interesting, if you another swing after it gets killed. Master of the Pearl Trident. This one's just another Lord of Atlantis, really. I mean, essentially, it's other Merfolk you control have +1/+1 and Island Walk. The Island Walk is really annoying. Metallic Mimic. You just choose Eldrazi or Vampires, or no, I'm kidding. You do Merfolk again, and it gives +1/+1 counters on them whenever they come into play. So it's really cool. Vidalian Hexcatcher. This one is a really, really strong lord. It has flash. It gives them +1/+1, but also you can sack Merfolk to Mana Tithe. So you just counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1, and you can just keep countering. You can just oh, you're gonna pay the 1, or I'll sack more. I'm just gonna keep sacking more of my Merfolk tokens and just keep that spell down. Merfolk Sovereign. +1/+1s. It also has a tap ability to target Merfolk is unblockable, so that could be nice. Get Hakbal through because he has to attack to get his triggers. So definitely some synergy there. Stony Brook Banneret. This one has Island Walk, and it just makes your Merfolk spells cheaper to cast, which is nice. Also does Wizards, but we don't care. It's Merfolks. Deep Fathom Echo. This is just one I'm trying out. It's a Merfolk spirit. I think it's neat because at the beginning of combat on your turn, it explores itself. And then you can have it become a copy of another creature you control until end of turn. So it could become a lord. It has a lot of utility to it. So, pretty fun. Merfolk Cave Diver. This one's just a value piece, right? 3 mana, 2/4. Whenever a creature you control explores, he gets stronger, and he can't be blocked. So as your board is exploring, this one will also explore, and then it just gets even beefier, and now it's unblockable. So really, really good. Curious Follower, value, man. Untap target permanent, you can untap your lands. It's a ramp piece, it's a value piece. Curious Follower is one of my favorite little untappers. If I have any synergies that are working with that, love me a Curious Follower. Thieving Skydiver. This one is essentially 3 mana, take your opponent's Soul Ring, right? So you pay 2, has kicker X. X can't be 0. When it enters play, if it was kicked, gain control of target artifact with mana value X or less. So, I mean, most times you're like taking their Soul Ring, taking their Arcane Signet, but nothing beats taking a Mana Crypt. That's so fun. Nothing. I mean, you spent $200 on a Mana Crypt? I spent 50 cents on a Thieving Skydiver, and it's yours forever. It doesn't matter if Thieving Skydiver dies. So, really, really cool. Benthic Biomancer, really powerful. Whenever a +1/+1 counters are put on him, draw a card, then discard a card, which you're just going to be doing through exploring, but it can also adapt itself in the early game. Really cool. Tempest Caller. This is like essentially an overrun for us, right? At ETBs, tap all creatures opponent controls. You want to kill somebody, you have a big board, but they have a lot of blockers. Tempest Caller, tap their board, swing in, kill them. Kapala, Warden of Waves. Spells your opponents cast that target a Merfolk cost 2 more to cast, so he taxes them, and it just taxes abilities too. So he's just a little bit of a protection. Really fun stuff. I mean, it makes it so you can't just swords me. You got to pay 3 for that. I really enjoy that effect. Topography Tracker, really, really busted card, if I'm to be frank, right? I mean, when it ETBs, it makes a map. So busted. No, I'm kidding. But it's really in here for that second line of text. If a creature you control would explore, instead it explores, then does it again. You just double explore? That's just kooky. That's kooky. Harbinger of the Seas. This is the new one that came out in Modern Horizons 3. I guess I don't know if it's new. I'm pretty sure it is, though. But either way, it's strong, right? Non-basic lands or islands, which just throws all of our island walk into overdrive. Just makes everybody have islands. And then, boom, you just crash through people with this. It's so strong. Stacks for everyone else and just a buff for us. Yes, please. See? Island Walk. Merfolk Spy. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they reveal their hand. Reveals a card at random from his or her hand. So that's kind of neat. I just put it in here because it's a 1/1 for 1 with Island Walk, so you can just start getting through, and then as it explores, it becomes a huge threat. And then it's like, yeah, I guess waste removal on my 1/1 for 1. Jade Light Spelunker. This guy's good. I mean, you just pay X, and then it explores X times. So it has value whenever you want to play it. Really, really good. Kumena. I've debated on keeping Kumena. I mean, he's just so strong, but typically he's his own Merfolk commander, right? They don't really share a lot of synergy, but he does have a lot of abilities to him that give you utility, so that's why I'm keeping him in here. Just because you can tap another untapped Merfolk to make him unblockable, which is good on its own. But you can also tap 3 Merfolk to draw a card. You can tap 5 untapped Merfolk, put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk you control. So he has enough utility in it. It's just I think he just wants more cards, in my opinion. But he's still really, really strong, so we keep him. Deep Root Elite, this one's just a Merfolk that whenever another Merfolk ETBs, this guy gets stronger, or put a counter on target Merfolk, so he can just buff your board as you're just dumping these Merfolk out here. But this one's nuts. This one is another very powerful card. Whenever a creature you control explores a land, you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So you put the land in your hand from Explore, then just dump it right into play. Super crazy with if you have even like 3 Merfolk out in this, it's nuts. And then whenever a creature you control explores a non-land card, she just gets huge. So really, really cool. Mist-Cloaked Herald, just an unblockable, it's just nice to have because you're going to be just buffing your board all the time. Herald of Secret Streams, really strong Lord effect, really. I mean, creatures with +1/+1s on them can't be blocked. So just have this out here, make your board. This is a good just kill somebody, Just be like, all right, I'm just going to drop this and then swing everybody at my thing, and then, yeah, you can't block me, really. So, really strong. This one, he has Mentor, so whenever this creature attacks, put a counter on target attacking creature with lesser power, so that's kind of nice. And then whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter and it dies, you draw cards. So that's why I like it personally, it's just the card draw. Keeping your hand full is just good. Seeker of Sunlight, this one is just a 1-mana little Merfolk lady. You can pay 2 and a green, and she explores. So you can just, start exploring. It just gives you some more card selection from the top of your deck. Really nice. Singer of Swift Rivers. This guy's super fun. He has Flash. He lets you cast other Merfolk as though they had Flash. And then when he enters the battlefield, you put a shield counter on another target creature you control. So he's protection, and then he's an enabler. Really good stuff. Repulsive Mutation. You can put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, and then counter up to 1 target spell unless they pay mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So it doesn't even have to be on the strongest creature you have. If you already have like a 5/5 and you want to buff up your other weaker creature, you just buff that guy, counter a spell. It's awesome. It's really, really good. Tashana's Tidebinder. I'm a huge fan of Stifle style effects, and this one is that, right? It's a flash. When it enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If the ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as this creature remains on the battlefield. Really strong. I mean, could you imagine? You're like, I'm going to ult with Ugin. And you're like, no. So fun. Frilled Mystic. It's a counterspell on a Merfolk. So that's why we run it. It's flash speed, just, hey, you may counter target spell. Done. Really good. Commandeer, this is a new edition. I'm just trying it out to see. I've had Commandeer played against me a few times recently, and I thought it was a funny card. And I think it's a funny gotcha card in here, too. We'll often have enough blue cards, we're drawing so much, that we could afford to do something like this. What if someone casts like a one-sided board wipe or like a Psych Rift or something? It's nice to just be like, Commandeer, and now it's yours. And now you could probably win after that. So, seems interesting. And worst case scenario, you can pay the 7 mana. Odds are you're not gonna, though. Now we're getting into some enchantment synergies. So Court of Garenbrig, really, really strong in +1 decks. So you become the Monarch, so I love introducing the Monarch. But either way, at the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 +1/+1s among 2 target creatures. Then, if you are the Monarch, double your +1/+1 counters on each creature. That's not even on just the 2 you picked. It's nuts. Hardened Scales, same thing. Whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, you put that many +1. So it just grows your, instead of 1 with Exploring, you're putting 2. Really good. And for 1 mana, it's just such a good return on investment. Branching Evolution, this is just the same kind of thing. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, twice that many. So it's kind of like super Hardened Scales. It's really strong. Deep Root Waters, really, really good card. This came in the precon, I think. Whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, you make a Merfolk creature token with hexproof. So it's just super cool. Emperor Mihal II. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. I love doing that. That's super fun. And then you can cast them. You can cast Merfolk spells from the top. Whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, you can pay 1 and make a Merfolk creature token. So just a little token enabler. Really good. Deeproot Pilgrimage. Really, really good card right here. Whenever 1 or more non-token Merfolk you control become tapped, create Merfolk tokens with hexproof. So just whenever you're tapping them, there you go. So good. Beastmaster Ascension. I really enjoy this card in here. It has potential to just like overwhelm an opponent. I mean, all you need is 7 quest counters, and you just get a counter whenever any of your creatures attack. They don't even have to make it through. But you have so many Island Walk and Unblockables that you're getting this up and running very quickly, and then it has to be addressed. Reflections of Litjara. I mean, classic stuff here. When you're choosing your Merfolk creature type, and then when you cast your Merfolk, you get another one. I mean, why have 1 when you have 2? Right? I mean, I think that's the rules. Spreading Seas. This was my fun utility card before we had the other Merfolk that just made all non-basics islands. But this is really fun if you're running into somebody, you have some Island Walk stuff, and you need to get through on somebody. Turn one of their lands into an island. I mean, it's super good. Enchanted Land is an island. It can take out, it's also kind of land removal and land benefit for you. Like if they have like a Glacial Chasm. No, you don't. It's an island. It's super good. And then this is in a separate section by himself because he is incredibly strong. So whenever a spell or ability you control counters whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may put a 1/1 Merfolk token onto the battlefield. And then you tap 7 untapped Merfolk you control to just counter a spell. So on its own, very, very strong. But if you combine this card with Intruder Alarm, you win the game. Right? Because no one's going to be able to cast any spells. Because you tap 7, counter a spell, you countered a spell, a creature comes into play, you untap all your creatures. So they'd have to spell pretty quickly in response, but it can put a very hard lock on the game. And the more spells you're countering, the more Merfolk you're going to have, and it's so strong. So strong to get that out. And he's just good on his own. So that's something to consider in itself. Then we're running Breeding Pool, Simic Growth Chamber, Botanical Sanctum, Temple of Mystery, Hinterland Harbor, and Vine Glimmer Snarl as our dual color lands. I mean, with Hakbal's triggers, you're never really running super crazy on lands, but either way, then we're running Unclaimed Territory, Secluded Courtyard, Pit of Offerings, Path of Ancestry, Exotic Orchard, and Command Tower. I like Pit of Offerings just because it's some graveyard hate, and then, if you just exile a blue and a green card, now it's a dual land too. I think it's pretty strong. I personally like it. Then we do have some utility lands, like Karn's Bastion. Having Proliferate on a land that comes in untapped is really nice. Rogue's Passage to just, swing through and hit somebody with Hakbal. And then Reliquary Tower, because we are going to be exploring a lot, so if we're hitting a lot of lands, it's just nice to have a Reliquary Tower. And then we are running a lot of forests. So we're running 6 forests, because we do need some green, but we are heavily blue based, right? So at the moment, I'm running about, let's see. So we're running 8, 12, 14 islands. And I love the arts for the Lost Caverns, I themed the whole deck on that. I would like to get more foil ones. This one's in here just because I didn't have one more island. So I just need one more. Just one more. But yeah, anyway, that is Hakbal. This is, straight out of the box, this deck is incredibly strong. And it does not need much to just go explosively powerful. So I really suggest if you find this or if you're interested in this deck and you want to do some like combo-y stuff and tribal, this deck will answer your prayers. It's a very strong deck. It has never done nothing for me. It's always done very, kind of way overpowered for the games I think it should be in. But either way, that's Hakbal for us. If you enjoyed this content, please remember to hit that like button and comment down below any other cool things or interactions you think I should try out and run. And subscribe. Do it. Do it. Do it. All right. Bye.